Hello folks, it's about 2:30 in the afternoon on Friday, and I thought I'd make a little video as I drive along here. Let's see what to talk about. So I received a watch in the mail today. I thought I'd give you a little sneak preview. I'll do a more complete report on it tomorrow, but here we go, folks. See? Are you pausing? So this is a very interesting watch. I've been wanting one in this basic style. See that? It's a Perpetual C06. I think the C stands for chronograph. It is a Chinese watch. Yes, that's right. It is a Chinese watch. I can hear the watch knobs rolling in their grain, moaning with displeasure. But I've been wanting it's kind of it actually reminds me, the one that I was wanting that's similar to this was the Longines Heritage 1957, or is it 1951? I can't remember which one. Really cool looking watch. Been wanting this sort of like, it's not bi-compacts, but actually this one comes in bi-compacts, but I decided to get this one partially because I saw it used on Watch Recon, but also because it has a moon phase, and I've been wanting a moon phase for a while. Anyways, I never heard of this company Perpetual. This is why I was fairly certain, I'm guessing neither have any of you, or very few of you. It's a boutique micro brand that I don't know if, I think they're Chinese, and they sort of pride themselves on making affordable, high quality watches. So we'll see. I'll show you it a little closer. It's got a very cool open case back, a decorated, very complex movement. It's pretty affordable. It's in micro brand price range. It's a lot of I mean, one of the things that drew me to it is people saying that you get a lot for the money. And so far, my initial impressions are very positive in that regard. It really does look and feel like a watch 3 or 4 times the price. And yeah, it's definitely a cool watch. So we'll see. It's very different than any of my other watches. It's not a dive watch. It's a dress watch, I guess you could say. It's also got a vintagey look, while still being new. Perpetual is it's a small company, and I'll go into greater detail. We'll look at the website together, maybe the next day or two. But Perpetual is a small company, and they make a limited number of these watches. The website's a little funny because the English isn't so great. And I don't think they intend to be this way, but it almost sounds rude. They're like, we won't answer any emails about, they're basically out of stock with everything pretty much, I think. But they have an affordable tourbillon, for instance. So if I end up really liking this, I'm going to look into their tourbillon, because it'd be nice to get a tourbillon watch for an affordable price. I do like the tourbillons. I think it's a cool technology. It looks very cool. Anyway, so far so good. It's a little smaller. I mean, actually, it's probably 41 millimeters, I think, across the bezel. Sapphire case, or crystal sapphire case back as well. So yeah, it's nice. It feels pleasantly comfortable. It's got a nice deployant clasp. I'll give you a better detailed look in the next day or two. So let's see. I wanted to say something about my plans as far as my collection goes. You know, with the caveat that plans are always changed. But really, I've been wanting to make a video for some time about my short, midterm, and long-term plans. And this is always changing, but I can give you just a brief little bit. My short-term plan is really not a whole lot. By short-term, I mean the next few months. I mean, what am I going to do in the next few months? I think really all it comes down to is I still want to sell the Hamilton DLC, or is it PVD? I'm not sure. But it's a high quality, all black railroad watch. I haven't. I'm a little too laid back for my own good, I guess. I haven't gotten around to putting it up for sale. But I'll do that. I'll do that shortly. So I want to sell that. I have a couple straps. I'm going to see how they work with this. I actually like the strap quite a bit. I have a couple straps I'm thinking of selling because I just bought them and I'm never going to wear them. So just a couple little odds and ends. I also, another thing I'll share is I bought a rubber strap for my Black Monster, which I'll see. I'm not, the only rubber strap I've ever really liked is the Oris Aqua strap, which is a great strap, very comfortable. Love the deployant clasp on that one. But all the other ones they felt a little uncomfortable. This one's all right. It's better than the Seiko. It's softer rubber than the Seiko, the standard base level Seiko strap. But I wanted to change that one up a little bit. So that's another thing I recently have done. But as far as like the next few months, there are a couple things that I would buy if given the right situation. So I'm still looking for an all black watch, but I want it to be under $500. So basically tier 2. And they're really, I haven't, it's been this it's one of my quote unquote white whale watches, meaning I can't quite find the right fit for me. But I've decided, the one thing I have decided is that, well, this catches the light really nicely. It's not loomed. So, mostly dive watches and sports watches are loomed. A lot of dress watches aren't, but it really does, the metal catches the light nicely. Anyways, I can tell this is going to be a grower already. I liked it out of the box, but I've liked it more and more the more I look at it. What was I saying? Oh yeah, all black watch. I just haven't found the right fit. I did decide that I don't want to spend a lot of money on it. I like it when my watches, I like a little bit of scraping and a little bit of scuffing. It kind of brings a real manly quality to the watches, especially for like divers. But for PVD, it looks horrible, especially if it's cheap quality and they scrape really easily. And I know, of course, which makes me think, why should I even bother with a cheap one? It's a little bit of a catch-22 with all black watches because, like for instance, the Hamilton I have is in very good shape. There's like one or two little teeny bits. I think like on the case back, there's a little scrape. But even then, it doesn't go down to the silver metal. So it's kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation where if you don't spend a good amount of money on a high quality finish or coating, then it's going to scrape up. But on the other hand, if you spend a lot, then it's risky, because if you scrape it up, it's hard. I think it probably costs a lot of money to have it recoated. Although it should be something that is like a standard servicing that these companies offer. I don't know, maybe it is. I haven't looked into it. Anyway, still looking for that all black tier 2 watch. Probably the sweet spot is going to be around $400 or $500, where you can get like the Steinhardt Ocean Black DLC. It's a higher quality coating, but it's still only about $400 used, $500 new, somewhere around there. All the $200 Seikos and Citizens I've had that were had a coating, there's been 3 or 4 of them really. They scrape really easily. Very thin coating. So there's that. The other thing that I would buy on the spot, or the thing that I know I would buy on the spot, there's a watch called the Orient Somes, or Somez. Somez makes it sound Hispanic, and I don't think Orient is going for that. But there's a blue dial version. Now I know I already have my electric blue. The Orient Somes is kind of similar, more of a dress watch. It comes on a leather strap. I don't know, I just really like it. I want one. But they're really hard to find. I've seen them come up. I haven't seen one since I've been looking, which has been a few months. I think the last one that was available was earlier this year. So like once or twice a year maybe. They probably sell for $400 used, I think. But yeah, that's one that I really would like to get. I've seen the black dial version, but it's not the same. So I'm hoping to get one of those at some point, and I would buy it if I found it, but if I don't, I don't. And then the other thing, well, this might fit more into the midterm, so I'll hold off on the last thing. So that's pretty much it. I don't really have any other short-term plans, unless there's no, you know, there's a watch that strikes me that's affordable, that's tier 2, or that I really like, which probably won't be the case. All right, so midterm is the next few years. This is the foreseeable future. This isn't grails. This is like stuff, watches that I would buy within the next couple of years if the situation's right. And really the only watch, well, there's a couple, there's a few, but there's one in particular, and that's the Seiko Marine Master 300 meters. Probably the older SBDX 001, because I think I'd want to buy it used. The SBDX 017 is the newer version, and it's going new on Saya, Japan for about 1850. I think 1878 is what sticks in my mind. You can get the older model used for about 1,300. Sometimes as low as like 1,100, but usually there's something wrong with it. And sometimes people are asking like 1,500. But usually around 1,300 is what you should expect to pay for one in very good condition that's a couple years old. It's a watch that you don't, I would prefer to get a more recent one. I think at one point they changed the crown stem to a better crown stem. I'm not sure exactly. The newer one has, the main difference is that it has improved lume, and it also has a dia shield coating. So that's all nice and well and good, but I don't know if I'd want to spend $500 or $600 more on it. It also has a slightly changed crown insignia, which I'm kind of indifferent. They've been adding the Prospect logo, and a lot of people are all outraged about it. A lot of the Seiko purists, they don't like it. I'm kind of indifferent. It doesn't really bother me or excite me. So that's the main. You know, I just have to get this watch someday. It's been on my wish list for a long time, and you know, for a while I much prefer its larger titanium spring drive cousin, the SBDB 001, but it's just too big, and it's significantly, well, it's solidly more expensive. And I have a feeling that I'd get it and I'd wear it and I'd be like, this is too big. So the SBDX 001 has really grown on me over the last couple of years. It really has a classic, unique look. It doesn't fit into any other, I mean, there's no other watch that looks like it. It really is up there, I think, also in the Hall of Fame of dive watches. You know, along with, of course, the Submariner, the Seamaster. I would say that Planet Ocean now belongs in that Hall of Fame of dive watches. The 50 Fathoms, which I'm not really a huge fan of, and the Seiko Marine Master. So that is something I'd really consider. You know, even if I just feel like I need to have it in my hand. I don't know if there's anywhere you could find it in a shop in the United States, but just even if I like buy it, put it on my wrist, wear it, and say, this isn't right for me, I'll be okay with that. I'll be okay with that, even if, you know, the money I lose from PayPal and shipping and all that, it's $50 to $100. It's almost worth it just to have it and to experience it and see if it's something that I do want. So that's another reason for me to buy it used. So I could see getting that in the next year or two, even sooner possibly, depending. Now, other than that, the other thing that really comes to mind is I'm on the prowl for a vintage bicompax. I've mentioned this before. I don't know exactly what it looks like, but I love the bicompax look. I wish the Omega Speedmasters were bicompax. I wish there was one that I really liked that was vintage and affordable. There are some. The 57. There's the homage to 57. There's the newer moon watches that are bicompax. I want something a little more vintagey looking. The one that has struck me the most is probably there's this Wittnauer bicompax, which has a red bezel, which I think is really cool, but I'm a little leery about, they go for about $1,000, maybe even a bit more, and I'm a little leery about buying one. I have to admit, it's not vintage, but I do like the Hamilton, what's it called, Pan Europe chronograph, which is bicompax. But yeah, I don't know if I want another Hamilton. I do like Hamilton, but I don't know if it's quite right for me. I wish that there was a Breitling Navitimer that was bicompax. Maybe there is. Maybe you can tell me if there is. I would be totally into that. It kind of has that bicompax-y look. So yeah, vintage bicompax if I find the right one. Again, for that one, it has to be the right one, and it has to be within an affordable range. So yeah, and in the midterm, I see myself, at least see my situation is that as I shared before, I've been transitioning my career, and we're also looking at a move within the next year, possible / probable, and because we'd be moving and establishing ourselves someplace new, we would, money would be tight for a while. I can't see myself making a big purchase until we're stabilized in our next location. And that will probably take several years. So that's where I can really differentiate the long term and the midterm, because the midterm really has to stay within my means. I'd almost have to sell something in order to spend more than a few $100s on a watch. And I don't, at this point, I don't have any watches that I want to sell other than the Hamilton, which will not really, get me anything more than maybe start me towards a Marine Master. But one of the things I've been finding, here's my Crosswind Racing, which I was wearing earlier until I picked this up at the mail and put that on. One of the things I've been finding is that, I have these 4 watches that are central to my collection. My 2 Breitlings and my 2 Omegas. And I just don't see myself selling any of them. I considered selling this one for a while, but then I fell back in love with it. And that's what keeps on happening to me. For a while it was all about the Blackbird, and then it was the Blackbird and the electric blue, and then I got really back into my blue chronograph Seamaster, and now I've been wearing this a lot lately and just falling back in love with this again. This is a very unique piece. You don't see many of these all silver Crosswind Racings out there. I'm kind of like, even though I've talked big about a smaller collection, I kind of like the idea of, okay, I've gotten it back down to 4 core pieces, and I've got a few pieces that are sort of like secondary pieces, like my Orient Revolver, the Omega, or the Seiko Black Monster, and now this Perpetual chronograph. And those, I feel like, they're fun secondary pieces, and I can, enjoy them for specific occasions or have them for a little while. But as far as the core collection goes, I like the idea of getting like one nice new piece, one big purchase, one tier 4 or up purchase once per year. Like, that's it. Maybe, in a few years increasing that. I don't know, we'll see. And then not selling, not like, I think if it's a slower, I think part of the problem that I've experienced, I don't know if I can speak for Jeff, because he and I have talked a lot about this and had different versions of this. But for me, part of the problem of that sort of like almost nausea of getting your collection too big is when it gets too big too quickly. It's like gaining too much weight too fast. So I don't necessarily, yeah, I mean, who knows how I'll feel in a couple years. I mean, maybe in a year I'll want to sell this or sell the Blackbird or, one of the Omegas. I doubt it, but we'll see. My taste could change. But I like the idea of stopping the flipping process and then just slowing that down and just getting pieces that I want to hold on to long term. So in terms of my long-term plan, it really depends. And I think the one watch, there's 2 watches that stand out as like watches I definitely want to get eventually. One is a Breitling Navitimer, probably the classic one. I like some of the newer variations, but there's just something about the classic. You know, it really is just an iconic piece. Has such a distinct look. Jerry Seinfeld wears one. I think he has like every variation of Navitimer. I think I read that somewhere. Another is the a Breguet Transatlantique Type 21. I think that would be the closest thing I would get to buying a haute horology piece ever. I don't see myself ever getting a Patek, an AP, which I don't know, AP kind of bugs me. Maybe if I was loaded, I would look at, if I was really going to go, you know, spend 50 grand on a watch, probably I'd be looking at Lange and Zone. Lange and Zone. That's probably, you know, one of their watches. They have some really amazing pieces. Or some of the Breguets, you know, I like those better than the APs, Pateks. But that's like way out of my mind. I really don't see that ever happening. I'm not in the right racket to spend 50 grand on a watch. But long term, yeah, I could see getting a Breguet Type 21. That would probably be the watch I would get if I was to jump into that tier. And then there's a number of Omegas I still want to get, like a Planet Ocean chronograph, blue, titanium liquid metal. Love it. It's big, but I want it anyways. And I would like to get some kind of Speedmaster at some point. Probably, I don't know. I haven't found the right Speedmaster for me. And an Omega Seamaster 300, the late 60s version, the one that Matt Stevens just got. Craig at the Distinguished Gentleman owns one of those. Such a classic. I love it. So those are all long term, but I'm not really putting much time and energy into those. I don't see myself getting any of those within the next few years. I'd really have to establish myself in the next phase of life and career. All right, I have to go pick up my daughters because I'm going to go take them and the dog for a walk. So I will talk to you all later. Compacts, but actually this one comes in compacts, but I decided to get this one partially because I saw it used on Watch Recon, but also because it has a moon phase, and I've been wanting a moon phase for a while. Anyways, I never heard of this company, Perpetual. This is why I was fairly certain. I'm guessing neither have any of you, or very few of you. It's a boutique micro brand that I don't know if, I think they're Chinese, and they sort of pride themselves on making affordable, high quality watches. So we'll see. I think the C stands for chronograph. It is a Chinese watch. Yes, that's right. It is a Chinese watch. I can hear the watch knobs rolling in their grain, moaning with displeasure. But I've been wanting it's kind of it actually reminds me, the one that I was wanting that's similar to this was the Longines Heritage 1957, or is it 1951? I can't remember which one. Really cool looking watch. Been wanting this sort of like, it's not I'll show you it a little closer. It's got a very cool open case back, a decorated, very complex movement. It's pretty affordable. It's in micro brand price range. It's a lot of I mean, one of the things that drew me to it is people saying that you get a lot for the money. And so far, my initial impressions are very positive in that regard. It really does look and feel like a watch 3 or 4 times the price. And yeah, it's definitely a cool watch. So we'll see. It's very different than any of my other watches. It's not a dive watch. It's a dress watch, I guess you could say. It's also got a vintagey look. Hello folks, it's about 2:30 in the afternoon on Friday, and I thought I'd make a little video as I drive along here. Let's see what to talk about. So I received a watch in the mail today. I thought I'd give you a little sneak preview. I'll do a more complete report on it tomorrow, but here we go, folks. See? Are you pausing? So this is a very interesting watch. I've been wanting one in this basic style. See that? It's a Perpetual C06, while still being new. Perpetual is it's a small company, and I'll go into greater detail. We'll look at the website together, maybe the next day or two. But Perpetual is a small company, and they make a limited number of these watches. The website's a little funny because the English isn't so great, and I don't think they intend to be this way, but it almost sounds rude. They're like, we won't answer any emails about, they're basically out of stock with everything pretty much, I think. But they have an affordable tourbillon, for instance. So if I end up really liking this, I'm going to look into their tourbillon, because